Any worry going on in the WNBA executive offices, if there is no worry, oh, people aren't going to turn off, oh, people are still going to show up, if that was the thought that they were having up there in WNBA La La Land, well, now might be the time to hit the panic button. 48 hours after news hits that Caitlin Clark is injured and she'll be missing 2 weeks, the market has responded and the market has told the WNBA,
no doubt that's about to happen. The WNBA teams that move their games, this is about to be catastrophic.
The moment WNBA fans were dreading might actually be here. Caitlin Clark's latest injury setback is already sending shockwaves through the league. Arenas that upgraded to bigger venues just to handle the demand her presence brings could be staring down rows of empty seats if this drags on. Some fans say they're done watching altogether. Others are already refunding tickets and scrapping their trip plans. So what's your take? Is it fair for fans to walk away from the WNBA every time Clark's on the sidelines?
Well, we don't want this. What am I talking about? Indiana Fever ticket prices to games over the next 2 weeks have dropped 42% since Caitlin Clark's injury announcement, an average ticket price of $137.
The timing for the WNBA really couldn't be worse. And honestly, they brought this on themselves. Because of a back injury, Caitlin Clark, the one player who's single-handedly kept ratings up and seats full, is on the sidelines right now. And the league, which has spent months tiptoeing around how much credit to give her, is about to find out exactly what happens without its biggest draw.
I don't know when it happened. I know afterwards, we got a message that she had something going on with her leg, and they were getting an MRI, and then we got the alert yesterday.
Was it after the Liberty game on Saturday?
Is that her last game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Steph, you had a chance to try out a lot.
Let's break down what's actually going on here. Coach Stephanie White hasn't given a firm return date, and anyone who's watched back injuries linger knows no timeline rarely means back next week. My gut says we're looking at multiple weeks, not days. This isn't some minor tweak. This is a real injury that needs real time. And here's where it gets interesting. Several teams and the league itself made serious financial bets on Clark showing up. The Washington Mystics moved their Fever matchup to a Baltimore arena that seats over 11,000. The Chicago Skies shifted their game to the United Center. Dallas moved theirs to American Airlines Center, home of the Mavericks. These aren't small decisions. We're talking marketing spend, added staffing, security costs, and venue rental fees, all banking on one player's drawing power.
Yeah, I don't know how things work in pretend basketball. I don't know the history of transparency when it comes to timelines for injury returns in the WNBA. But I do know in the NBA, teams are rarely transparent with injuries. When the Pelicans say Zion Williamson will be reevaluated in 2 weeks, that really...
Those same teams could now be staring down some of their weakest attendance numbers in years. And fans aren't being quiet about how they feel. Across social media, you can find people saying they're offloading tickets, canceling road trips, or just sitting out games entirely until Clark's back. Some are talking about dumping their Fever Mystics tickets rather than making the drive to Baltimore for a game without her in it. Others say they'll skip live viewership altogether and only catch games on delay, just to avoid padding the league's real-time numbers. This isn't scattered noise. It looks like a coordinated response from fans who feel their favorite player has been undervalued by the league. And let's be honest about what's really fueling this anger. It's bigger than one injury. It's about how the WNBA has handled her presence since the day she arrived. There's been this strange tension the whole time, wanting to cash in on her popularity while also trying to dial back how much credit she gets. Players and commentators kept debating how the spotlight should be shared and whether other players were getting enough attention. Here's the problem with that approach. You can't build your business model around one player and then act blindsided when that player's absence leaves a hole. When Clark's been on the floor, the WNBA has pulled in ratings nobody saw coming. Games that used to draw a couple 100,000 viewers suddenly pulling over 1 million. Arenas that used to struggle to fill 5,000 seats were selling out 20,000 seat buildings. But instead of just owning that reality, the league often seemed uncomfortable with how much one player was driving the story. Rather than acknowledge she was behind most of the growth, there was this constant push to spread the narrative elsewhere. Now they're about to find out what the ratings and attendance actually look like without her. The injury itself raises its own questions too. People are asking whether Clark was pushed back into action too fast after already dealing with injury trouble earlier this year. Music. In a league with a short season and increasingly physical play, protecting your biggest asset should have been priority one. Instead, the league's most valuable player could now be out for a real chunk of the season. Business-wise, that's a bad spot to be in. The WNBA had real momentum, better TV deals, mainstream media actually paying attention, sponsors more interested than ever. All of that growth has leaned heavily on Clark's ability to pull in casual viewers who otherwise wouldn't tune into women's basketball. Those casual fans don't have deep loyalty to specific teams. They're not watching Washington-Chicago just because it's good basketball. One player got them interested in the league, and without her, a lot of that interest disappears. That's not a knock on the other talented players in the league. It's just how star power tends to work in pro sports. Attendance is where this will really sting. Moving a game from a 7,000-seat arena to a 20,000-seat venue is a gamble that only pays off if the demand shows up. These teams didn't make those moves hoping to break, even they were banking on high ticket prices and sellouts. Now they're looking at the real possibility of playing in front of a half-empty building. Given the extra costs tied to relocating games, that optics problem alone could be rough. Cameras catching rows of empty seats in arenas built to be packed makes it painfully clear how much of the league's draw has been tied to one player. Sponsors and network execs notice that kind of footage, and it can shape future deals. What makes this sting more is that it's largely self-inflicted. The WNBA had a real opportunity to ride Clark's popularity while also lifting other players up. Instead, music. Her success often seemed to get treated as a problem to manage rather than an asset to lean into. There was this odd hesitation to fully embrace what she was bringing to the table. And this fan backlash is basically the predictable result of that. Don't be surprised when people start looking elsewhere after months of being told, implicitly, that their favorite player isn't as essential as she clearly is. The league is going to learn the hard way that loyalty runs both directions when a player gets hurt. Some will say it's excessive to boycott games just because Clark's injured. Music. They'll argue fans should keep supporting the league and its other players regardless, but that argument misses the point entirely. These fans didn't come to the WNBA and happen to like Clark. They came because of Clark and happened to watch the WNBA. That distinction matters. The league had a real shot at converting those Clark-specific fans into fans of the league as a whole. Music. But that takes actually working to make that conversion happen. Instead, it seems like the assumption was that once people started watching, they'd automatically become fans of everything else too. That's not how fandom works, especially for casual viewers. And the financial fallout here goes well beyond just ticket sales and TV ratings. Merchandise sales will likely take a hit too. When your headline player isn't on the floor, sponsorship activations get a lot harder to justify. And without Clark's story to follow game to game, media coverage is bound to cool off. The ripple effects touch pretty much every part of the league's business model. And here's the part that stings the most. This didn't have to happen this way. Better load management, stronger injury prevention protocols, and simply not rushing a player back too fast after a prior setback could have avoided a lot of this. But the pressure to cash in on Clark's popularity may have pushed decisions that favored short-term wins over long-term player health. The timing here is brutal too, given where the league is in its growth. The WNBA was finally building real momentum, but keeping that going requires consistency. You can't grow a casual audience if your biggest star keeps disappearing for stretches. And there's no guarantee those viewers come back. They might just find something else to watch instead. It'll be worth watching how the league responds to all this. Do they finally acknowledge how much Clark's presence actually drives the business? Or do they keep pushing the idea that no single player is bigger than the league? That's going to be a tough sell once the attendance and ratings numbers start rolling in over the next few weeks. There's some irony here. The WNBA has spent a lot of energy trying to prove it doesn't need Clark to succeed. Now they're getting an unplanned chance to prove exactly that. The problem is every early signal points toward that experiment not going well. Music. This boycott sentiment isn't just about an injury. It's about fans feeling like the league hasn't given proper credit to the player who brought a lot of them in the first place. Combine that resentment with the reality that plenty of viewers tuned in for one specific player, and you get a genuinely rough situation for the league. Teams that bet big on Clark's draw are about to feel the consequences of that bet. The relocated games, the bigger marketing budgets, the higher expectations. All of it assumed she'd be on the court. Without her, those decisions risk becoming expensive lessons about what happens when your whole strategy leans on one person without a real backup plan. The WNBA is about to get a crash course in star power economics. With their biggest attraction sidelined, they'll see exactly what their attendance, ratings, and media coverage look like on their own, and based on the fan reactions so far, those numbers probably won't be pretty. Music. This moment really captures the tension that's followed women's basketball since Clark entered the league, the pull between one player's star power and the idea of collective growth. This injury may end up being the clearest test yet of which side of that debate actually holds up. The numbers don't lie, and they're about to paint a pretty honest picture of who's really been driving interest in the league. The WNBA is about to learn a hard lesson about not undervaluing the person who helped build the audience in the first place. Empty seats and soft ratings will make that point louder than any press release could. So, what's your take on all of this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more sports takes like this, those same teams could now be staring down some of their weakest attendance numbers in years. And fans aren't being quiet about how they feel. Across social media, you can find people saying they're offloading tickets, canceling road trips, or just sitting out games entirely until Clark's back. Some are talking about dumping their Fever Mystics tickets rather than making the drive to Baltimore for a game without her in it. Others say they'll skip live viewership altogether and only catch games on delay.